You're watching PEGRI TV, Rhode Island's public access channel.
The wheel is turning and you can't slow down. You can't let go and you can't hold on. You can't go back and you can't stand still. If the thunder don't get you, then the lightning will.
Hello and welcome to another incredible episode of My Wheelhouse. I'm your host, as always, Seamus. I'm joined by Mike. Mike, it's great to have you back. How you feeling?
I'm feeling great. We got aliens in the mailbag, I hear.
Yeah, aliens in the mailbag. I agree. That's what's coming later in the show. And back on for the second episode, Sloan. How you doing, Sloan?
Very good. Happy to be here.
All right, it's going to be a good time. We got a lot to get to, even though we're kind of in the dead of the NBA season.
But it's ticking. It's coming.
Yeah, I
The
think
doldrums.
we're a little under 3 weeks away before preseason starts.
You see what the Celtics going to do that preseason?
No, I did not.
Salve Regina,
Newport.
again.
Yep.
Yeah, first time they've been up there before. Maybe you can get a press pass or something.
I already got a preseason ticket to the Hornets game. It's only $15.
Wow.
It's a great deal.
Yeah, it is.
It's my neck of the woods.
That's very true. You want to go? You wanna
Is
go?
it, are they playing it at the
It's at the Garden. That game's at the Garden. All right, let's get to the wheel.
All right. And we're off.
I need to replace one of the nails. There's a nail missing on the wheel. Doesn't matter. Still does the same thing.
Seems to be
I'm not
cooking
getting
nice.
any less aggressive on this wheel. So.
Oh, Luka Doncic
Luka
to start. All right,
Oh.
so Luka Doncic is a two-guard. He's probably going to be
2/3.
Yeah, he's going to guard twos in the NBA. He's a European prospect, one of the most highly touted European prospects in a long time. He's coming in. He plays for Slovenia. He's been playing alongside Goran Dragic on the national team, and he plays in the Spain
Real
League.
Madrid.
I think it's ACB in the Spain League, which is highly regarded as the best basketball league in
Outside
the
the
world
NBA.
outside the NBA. So
Yeah.
it's high-level competition. He's only 18 years old. He just turned 18 in February. He's really smooth prospect. He's projecting already as a top 5 prospect in the 2018 draft. A lot of people are saying that if everything goes correctly in the next year, he could go as high as 1 in the draft, depending on who's drafting at that slot. I'm very excited about him. I think what's important to look at is because obviously it's very, very hard to project European prospects and how they come over. Something that I like about him is typically the archetype of the prospect, the European prospect coming over, is based off of what they project as and off of a very large size and length. So if you look back at prospects, you got Darko, Bargnani, Porzingis, Dirk, Lauri Markkanen, kind of, because he played at Arizona. Hazonia, that guy had very long wingspan and was very athletic. Dragan Bender, Saric, all of these guys kind of have the same frame. Jan Vesely from like 2011, all the same frame. Some translated, some don't. But something that I find with Luka Doncic is he isn't that way. He's tall. He's tall for his size. He's 6'8", but he isn't athletically dominant, and he has a pretty moderate wingspan. I think it's like a 6'9", 6'10" wingspan. So you can tell that for him to be this prevalent as a star, it's skill-based, and it's more of a talent, and he's more there already. And while a lot of these European prospects coming over are projects and need a lot of work, I think he has the ability to come over and contribute more readily. He's more on the same timeline as like Ricky Rubio, when Ricky Rubio came over. Because Ricky Rubio didn't really have that athleticism or that intense, really like, oh, he's going to project and he could be this great. It was kind of, you knew what you were getting. And I think that's what you're going to be getting with Luka. He's been in the Eurobasket. What have you seen from him? You like him?
Yeah, I like him a lot. I really follow Kristaps Porzingis. He's one of my favorite guys in the NBA.
Yep.
And I think he could have a nice improved year this year if they think straighten out in New York. But so he was playing. They were playing Slovenia, and he just showed up there for the first time for me. I said, I got to check this guy out. I see a lot I like about him. There's nothing I don't like about him. I think it's very exciting that we're now developing where there's 3 guys that you see in the 2018 draft with Porter and Bagley and Luka that are top of the line guys. I still think there's nobody that matches Bagley because of his size, his athleticism, playing down the block, a true big man. Porter, everything I hear better and better about him as I move along with him. So I look at Luka as probably the 3rd one.
That's what I have him too.
And I see some things about him that are different. He reminds me of Dan Molly. And I don't know whether you remember Dan Molly from Phoenix, where he's a good-sized guy, sturdy body, with a good handle, and has a good feel for the game, as a lot of Europeans do coming in right away, but they're fundamentally sound. I can't tell defensive quickness-wise. I like what Doncic says about him. I like what
I mean, NBA players love him.
that's what I'm hearing, and Dracic's even saying he can play the one. I mean, he's not quick enough to play the one.
Right.
I can see where he's quick enough to play defensively.
Well, a lot of the competition he's been playing, I touched on the Spain league and how that's most competitive.
Yeah, Real Madrid is
but
a real thing.
So he's playing real NBA players. He's playing with foreign players, Sergio Rodriguez, Rudy Fernandez. These are players that has been on his team. But at the same time, he participates in the preseason a lot. So he's played against Oklahoma City Thunder. He's played against the Portland Trailblazers. He's played against these teams, and he does well. And he gets switched onto Russell Westbrook. He shut him down. Russell Westbrook had several situations where he tried to get him in the high post, and he defended well. I still think he's a minus defender, but he shows.
18 years old.
Yeah, what do you think about Luka?
I like what I'm hearing too. I mean, he grew up on basketball courts, sweeping the floors.
Well, his dad played.
And he's always trying to get better. It's like you said, it's like raw talent. It's like unadulterated talent.
Exactly.
He's not just focused on what a lot of the teens in America are focused on, just pumping iron. He's always improving his game on the court and trying to get better chemistry-wise with his teammates.
He's got a nice shot, and he's got
does
really
so
good
smooth,
range.
so smooth.
6'8", 228. I mean, obviously he has to grow a little bit, but he's 18 years old.
6'8",
220 at 18 years old.
That's good. He's a body. He's an NBA body.
Is he a European that's going to be stepping into the league next year? Is he going to spend time in Europe before he comes over, or are they going to have to?
I think it's
step right
it's
out there.
It's all personal preference, but I bet you he comes over. I like him a lot. He shows a lot. He's a hustle type player. He has that smooth flow type of feel to his game. He's a crafty ball handler. He's not a great ball handler, but he's a ball handler in short stints that he's very good. He's a creative and precise passer, especially off pick and roll. Something that I've been watching. So I watched probably 3 or 4 games of just like full games. Something that I was just made me very optimistic about him and being able to translate is on Real Madrid and on Slovenia, they played a lot of ISO ball heavy, they played a lot of pick and roll ball, and he moved a lot off ball. And those are all things that he's going to be doing in NBA.
Sounds like the
and
NBA.
he's good at those
He
skills.
doesn't seem to have big ups for
No,
a
he doesn't.
6'8".
Well, but there's
there's nothing wrong with that. I mean,
He's
he gets above the
deceptively
rim.
athletic. He's deceptively athletic, so he can dunk on dudes. And,
Oh, God, yeah, 6'8".
And so I like his ability to improve as an athlete. Right now, that's not his most impressive trait, but that's okay. He's a good transition player. That translates. He's acrobatic in the air. He has one of his highlights. He had like one of the best MJ switches that I've seen. Where you come back and it's a cockback, like a dunk.
Yeah.
And he takes it and he
runs to the
avoids the
other
guy
side.
left
Yeah,
when he's
I saw
underneath
that.
the backboard. That was beautiful.
It was.
And he makes plays like that all the time. He's very a multi-dimensional player. He has a lot. He's unique. And he's unique in the way that, like, okay, last year we were talking about Lonzo Ball as this, like, I don't know who to compare him to. Lonzo Ball wouldn't be fair to compare him to this. It wouldn't be fair to compare it to Magic or whatever it is because we don't really know what we have here. Obviously, Luka Doncic is a different beast and he has a lot of different skills. But I agree, he's versatile, and I don't know who to compare to. And comparing him to, I like Majuro. I think that's a good comparison. But I don't really want to throw out a comparison because I don't think it would do him.
I seen throwing out LeBron James, which is just too much to even consider, you know.
Yeah, I don't really know who. It's funny because he's like a commendable defender. He's kind of like a right place at the right time defender. Yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like if he has the weak side block, like he's shown that he can do that. He's an efficient offensive player. It's tough to because like he can be a streaky shooter if he needs to be, but he's not ball dominant with the ball.
But I think efficient's a real good word for him because I think he's the type of guy that he's consistently going to get things done. I mean, across the board, game in and game out, you're not going to shut that guy down. Right. He's going to score from the outside. He can take it to hoop. He's strong. He snatches rebounds.
He's
strong.
aggressive.
He turns to look to push it up court right away.
His numbers are so like obviously they translate a little differently. As we've seen from players in the past, Brandon Jennings, other players that go to European League and then come over, usually statistical trends go upwards when they come back to the NBA and they average more points, more rebounds, more assists. A lot of that is because they don't play a lot of minutes over there. But the per 36 numbers for Luka Doncic over there, he's averaging like 16, 9, and 9. And he's like remarkable. He's shooting 38% from the three-point line. He's aggressive statistically.
He had 27 against Porzingis.
He's good.
He's one of those guys. His points per game might not be in the top 5 for rookies next year, but his plus minus might be.
Exactly. You know? That's a great point. He's very efficient. I'm really high on him. I like him a lot. If you're a team or if you're Luka, what team do you hope drafts you? So next year you got.
It's not the Celtics.
No. Well, I mean,
it's too much there. Jaylen Brown and Tatum standing in his way.
Yeah.
And I guess
You think about the other teams around that area. The Bulls are going to be there. The Hawks are going to be there.
Those are good. They'd be good
Literally,
matches
these
for 'em.
teams. These teams are literally going to be there. The Cavs are going to be there. The Magic are around that there. Even the Pacers, Celtics, the Hawks.
Yeah.
Literally every single one of these teams. not the Nets, because
Maybe the Knicks can get them. I'm starting to like the Knicks. As soon as they sort out that Carmelo stuff.
I was thinking about that. I think the Knicks would be a perfect place for him to go.
Yeah.
I think that he would pair well with Ntilikina, who looks like he's going to be more of a defense plus than offense plus guard, who's a little bit going to take a little bit more down the road to actually develop.
Yeah.
And I think Doncic is going to be able to provide for his team for winning basketball more immediately. So I think he does that. You can tell that he has the European flow that'll pair well with Porzingis. I think that's a great fit for him. I think if he went there, I would become a Knicks fan.
Marketing-wise, that would be
I'm ready to be a
amazing
Knicks fan as
setup.
soon as they get rid of him.
Yeah, I'm ready to be a Knicks fan too. All right, you got any final things to say on Jokic? No, not Jokic. What the heck? Doncic? Is it Doncic? I don't know. Got any final comments?
I'm not even touching that pronunciation.
Luka, spin the wheel.
All right, let's go with it. Uncle Mike likes to follow through.
Yep, it looks like it might work. All right, lottery reform. So I touched on this last week just briefly with Connor when he came on. I just wanted to get your guys' opinion on it. Basically, Adam Silver has proposed some amendments to the lottery reform, draft lottery style, so that ways basically to try to prevent or just restrict tanking. So the proposed terms would change it from the current system, which is currently first pick has a 25% chance of getting first pick. Worst record has a 25. Second worst record has a 19. Third worst record has a 15.6 or something like that. And then progressively it goes down. And then after that, it has something to do with finishing by record. And
So they're going to flatten that out, right?
Right. And obviously there's ways that it flips and changes. But the proposed change is the top three picks have a 14% chance, all three of them, 14% chance to get the even pick. And then there's tiers after that. And something that I thought about this was pretty interesting is I understand the goal. I understand why he's trying to prevent it. And I think that to a degree, it could do it. But what this is going to do, it's going to change which aspect of the league is tanking. So right now, you tank if you're a worst team in the league because you want to get the best pick. But if you're in the segment of the league that you're a bottom of your 11th worst to the 5th worst team in the league, and you're like, hey, there's 20 games less in the season. If we make a push, we could be a 7 or 8 seed. But if we lose some games, we could have the 5th worst lottery odds, and that's pretty close to getting the first overall pick. So I think you're going to be seeing decisions being made in February and in January from teams that could go either way. Maybe it's the Miami Heat. Maybe they're in the 10th place or something like that. Things aren't going. Maybe they have injuries. Maybe Dragic isn't playing. Maybe Whiteside's hurt. Maybe they shut that Whiteside down and they try to drop. And if they get the sixth worst record in the league, they could get a top 3 pick.
So no team will admit to dropping, and I'm not willing to cope to that any team is out there looking to tank. I just don't see it. I mean,
Right.
for one thing, whether it's 14% or 25%, the odds of getting that first pick are so slim, and then the odds of picking the right guy at that spot
Right.
and knowing who that is. I think it's a non-issue in a lot of ways, and I think it was more important to adjust the schedule so that they don't rest the stars as much on back-to-backs and stuff like that. I like that better. I mean, you don't even accuse a team of tanking when Popovich sits them all and doesn't even send them on the road and puts them at home. So that, to me, is a bigger issue.
They tried to fix that as well. What do you think about the lottery?
I think that's part of what they're trying to fix. They don't want stars on the bench, but it's all about execution. I mean, how exactly is it going to fix it? If a Philadelphia team a couple of years ago gets down to 14%, they're still not going to try to legitimately improve. They're not going to make any, mid-season roster changes or trades to, drastically improve.
But at the same time, what I just said, if a team, if the sweet spot to be, if you're not in contention, is going to be 5 to 10.
Yeah.
Because that means, as an organization, up until February and January, you can push for playoff contention. And then if things don't come together the way that they want them to, then you can dip down and take a little reserve, bench some stars, play some young players a little bit more. Maybe you rest players on not televised games because Adam Silver has talked about finding players.
It's more that it's not that they try to lose. It's like they don't care if they lose.
Right.
It's more that.
So I think that this change is going to motivate the worst teams in the league to be better and alter the perspective or the strategy of the middle of the kind of that morass area, which I think is exactly what the NBA needed. Because for the longest time, the NBA, if you're in the lottery and you're a 5 to 14 team, you're going to stay in that area. The Detroit Pistons, the Charlotte Hornets, the New York Knicks, the Dallas Mavericks, these teams perennially picked around 10 in the draft, and they never get a player that's good enough to get them out of that area, and they always finish back in that area. And it's because they're not getting a drastic enough game changer for them to attract free agents, for them to be able to have trade bait and assets. So this change, well, people will say, okay, it's just going to change who tanks, but the people who tank is going to motivate them to either tank and get better players or go for it and be a more exciting playoff team and get some playoff revenue. I think it's a smart decision. I think it helps on all areas.
I think it's really interesting what Philadelphia has done over the last 4 or 5 years, where they've constantly been able to get the best guy out there and build that. And they still haven't won any games, but they developed tremendous fan interest just because these guys are there. And Simmons is there, and
has a great fan base,
Embiid is there, and so they're selling. Simmons is there. I said him first, and so they're developing this interest among their fan base that allows them to not win a lot of games and still exist.
There's a good understanding.
At least trying, I guess, but they still, that's taken them a while, and it'll still be, this year will be the proof whether they've done it or not if they can get healthy.
Right, it's still not made official. The league still has to vote on it. I think the board of governors, and it's weird because it's not made up of every single.
It's not a big change.
It's not made up of every single owner or GM. It's just like a certain select few that they vote into like office, I guess.
And it has to be 75% approved.
Right.
So
I think it might even be
dicey.
more than that, but yeah,
it's a lot.
Do you think it happens? Do you care?
I think it should happen.
Yeah.
I mean, more owners, I think, than not, are interested in trying to get rid of the tanking concept.
Right.
Or at least
it's good to let everybody know you're looking at it.
Put in place a competitive balance, even if it's just the kind of idea.
My thing is, what's with the lottery? How come we're just seeing a guy unveiling one big card? Why can't it happen in front of us? It'd be more exciting.
The ping pong balls?
The ping pong balls.
I feel like it's because the process that they use is a little confusing. So there's lots of different numbers involved. Certain players
doesn't translate
yeah,
to
there's lots of conditional picks. I think it takes a while for them to do it, so I don't think it would actually convert to being something that would be watchable.
I'm just still salty about all those years the Celtics didn't get the picks.
I agree. No, I hear you.
The Cavaliers 2 years in a row.
Yeah, that's worse.
You know.
No, well, they got screwed in. Spin away. Next one.
Well, that was a good one.
Was it?
Mike,
you got a topic for us?
Yeah, I was thinking,
chump?
I do have a chump, and a chump is one of these committees. It's just called the Student Athletic Advisory Committee for the NCAA, and they're bringing to the table, and they look at the student athletes, if you want, whatever you want to call them, student athletes, and they're on their behalf, what works for them. And what they're proposing that the NCAA is going to look at in March, are going to bring it to the table, is instant eligibility for transfers. I think that is time to throw people into the table. That is absolutely ridiculous to allow players, without even getting permission from their teams, to go out there and look for other teams and be immediately eligible. I mean, we're crossing a line here.
I think they're trying to make steps towards just getting closer to paying college athletes.
Yes.
And I think they consider this like kind of a step in the right direction. I know what you mean. I don't like it. I don't think it makes a lot of sense.
Well, when you see how many transfers there are right now, there's hundreds and hundreds of transfers.
I think that
University of Virginia had 3 guys transfer off last year's
I think
team.
being restricted for when you can start to actually play and participate and contribute to your new team after you confirmed and declared for one university, it makes sense that you have to wait. That's stupid. You shouldn't be able to completely correct a decision that you committed to and you told the team that, hey, I'm your guy, I'm going to be there. I think it makes sense.
And what they're looking at, this committee, is that the schools are making all this money off the players, and the players aren't really receiving any benefits from that, and that they should be. And I can see that. And there's steps. It's going to be steps towards it becoming more and more professional, and I guess that's what it is. I think you'll see it happen in football first. The SEC is getting closer and closer to football and professional all the time, and where they'll start taking care of athletes or treating them like they really are and stop calling them student athletes. Right. But to have a committee that's out there looking out for the behalf of the students, I think that's worthy of a chump.
Any impressions on the SAAC?
It's like you said, they should be held to the same standards they've always been held to, and if you commit, then go through the initial time of commitment with them.
I agree. Good topic. Sack.
Like it. Save the aliens for later.
Yeah, for sure.
Mailbag.
Shay.
My topic. Okay, I just want to talk about my fantasy dynasty draft, and I just want to get your impressions of my team.
Ooh, exciting.
So I'm going to tell you my team. I'm going to tell you, I want to know what players you think are going to be contributors in the next couple of years, and how you think I did. So I picked Jokic, the Joker, first overall.
Yeah, he's on my list.
Can't go wrong.
I picked Damian Lillard right there. He's missing the ball.
Nice.
Second round. I picked
But he still looks very
I picked
acrobatic.
Klay Thompson. Something that we could talk about if it lands on the record thing is I think Klay Thompson is the most likely player to score 100 points in the next 5 years.
Wow.
I got Eric Bledsoe. Then I picked Dennis Smith Jr. Then I got Derek Favors and Clint Capella. I got Robert Covington. I got Thon Maker, Rondé Hollis Jefferson, and I just picked Marquise Chris yesterday.
Got a lot of upside there.
A lot of upside, a lot of youth.
Youth.
I'm definitely on the kind of projection of next year and the year after that for more when my winning window would be, more so than this year. There are other teams that have
How long do you keep your players?
forever.
Really? And
Yeah.
then you just move them in and out?
Right.
Yeah.
So
All right,
it's
so you're
off
always
time.
looking for players that are going to bring good stats across the board, that shoot a good percentage and fill the stat sheet more or less. That and when you're picking them in order, so the best guys are going first. I wonder how far down the list LeBron's going these days. When you
So-
when you think of you got Westbrook and Harden and those guys, are they going and Durant and is he a real? Is he like become a sleeper and get picked like ninth or something? And these
Not even. So I made my own rankings for this, and Harden and Westbrook went back to back at 9 and 10, at 10 and 11 at the end of the first round.
Really?
Going into the second round.
I thought they would have been 1 and 2.
Because it's salary cap driven. They're already 29 and they make a lot of money. So it's players like Karl Towns and Giannis and Anthony Davis, who are all under 24 years old, are going to go earlier because you have a higher chance of keeping them for longer. LeBron I had ranked 23rd. LeBron went in the second round with like the 4th pick in the second round. So he was like the 15th pick. But if you think about it, he's 32.
But if you just look at statistics and what they're going to turn up for you, why does the salary have anything to do with
It
that?
doesn't, but think about it. It's LeBron. How many more years is LeBron going to average 25, 8, and 8? 3? And then he's going to tail off?
But he's going to average 25, 8, and 8 this year.
Right? So, like, do you want a player? That's the debate. That's why he was a second-round pick and not a first-round pick. You're picking a player to win.
Do you
right
look
now.
for guys like, say, somebody like Austin Rivers that's going to get a shot this year to be a
hasn't- he
starter?
hasn't
and
been
he's
picked-
gonna
he hasn't been
play.
picked yet, but he's definitely on my
Chris
radar.
Middleton, who's going to get
he
fill
got
out
picked.
stats.
He got picked. Who else is on your list? You got a fantasy list. Let's see.
Well,
it.
yeah, I got your Jokic guy, and then I look at Kemba Walker, Michael Conley.
Kemba's coming off another hip surgery.
Miles Turner seems like he would be a pretty good pick.
Yep, Connor picked him.
He shoots decent percentages, and he's good across the board. Jeff Teague, to me, is somebody that
I'm out on Jeff Teague.
I think he's going to have a real good year with Minnesota, and I think Minnesota's going to turn the corner as a team, and Teague's going to be a big part of it because he's going to play the game much differently than Rubio
I
played
think
it.
he is going to play the game a lot different. But if we look at Tibbs, and when he has a star swing, he usually runs his offense through that swing. So he's going to. Last year he ran his offense through Andrew Wiggins. When he had the Bulls, he ran the offense through Jimmy Butler. He tries to get those players lots of looks for assists. He tries to get other teammates involved off actions that they're involved as the primary ball handler. So I think that Jeff Teague is going to be more involved in an off-ball role, and I don't think that he's
Well, who's going to handle the ball? I mean,
Jimmy Butler. I don't think that Teague has shown that much success.
I think
in
you're going to see
off-ball yet.
Butler's stats slide.
So that's fine.
Yeah,
I
but I
bet
think you're going to see Teague's
I-
stats are going to improve.
No, I bet you Jimmy Butler raises assists by a 1
How about somebody like Ben Simmons that hasn't really come onto the scene yet? So, but it's like, is he somebody that's very desirable?
Ben Simmons. So it's interesting because if you look up rankings, you can get rankings for a rebuilding rankings and then a contending rankings. In rebuilding rankings, Ben Simmons is a top 10 player. But in rebuilding rankings, but in contending rankings, Ben Simmons is like 35. So it's interesting. He went in the last pick of the second round in our draft. So.
What about have the rookies been flying
The
off
majority-
the shelf
the
to
majority
Josh
of-
Jackson, Jason Tatum?
Tatum got
they'd
picked
be
way
good
too early.
investments.
Josh Jackson just got picked by Matt a couple rounds ago. Yeah, a lot of the rookies go higher than you would expect because of their upside.
It's really interesting how many variables you have to consider.
Oh, yeah,
with
it's
the
because
salary,
Tatum's not gonna
with
get
the
minutes.
age.
No, he's not going to get minutes yet, but in 3 years,
3 years,
would you
okay.
be surprised that he would be the second best
So that's
player
what
on
you're
the
doing.
Celtics?
You're picking a future team there that
I mean, if you look at my team, I picked
yeah.
Dennis Smith in the 5th round. He could be my best player in 3 years. You know what I mean? You don't know.
You're picking a lot
So
on,
can you
on
take
potential.
somebody like Doncic?
No, you can't.
Or you can't?
Something I contemplated was drafting the rights to a player and just one player. I thought about it, but I don't know.
Bagley, I would.
It's not like FIFA.
Right. All right. Next one, we'll do 1 or 2 more of these. Maybe just one more. We'll see. We already did that
terrible
one. Was that your first repeat? Did you
My
repeat?
first- I think that's my
Did
first
you have any
repeat.
repeats
We've
last
only had
week?
one
Or 2
non-repeating
weeks
in the
ago?
history of this far wheel.
Oh, no.
A double repeat.
Double repeat with the
repeat.
same one.
I'm doomed.
Should have just went the other direction on
Yeah,
that.
after this one, go up.
Okay.
After this, you can just choose it. Wow, 3 in a row. Yeah, just choose one we haven't talked
What's
about.
going
Yeah,
on
so
here?
go to Kobe jerseys?
Yeah, so we'll just talk about this. A quick topic. So Kobe Bryant is going to get both jerseys retired by the
yeah.
Los Angeles Lakers. Number 24, number 8. What do you guys think about this? Are they going to put him on the same banner? Does he get 2 banners? Well, I think it makes sense that they should. What I think they should do is they should just have it dual-sided. So one side is 24 and the back
Could
side
do
is
that. Could add them up and
That's
divide
cool.
by
I
2.
like that idea.
That would be bonkers.
Stupid.
Why wouldn't you retire them both though? He was great, and he played a different. It was different eras.
Yeah, no, I agree.
2 different numbers, 2 different eras, and I'm sure the fans are okay with
I
it.
mean, both
Do they
deserve-
raise them both at the same time, or do they go?
I'm
Does they
thinking-
get the applause twice?
So what I
sure
said is
he'd like
I
that.
think it should be back-to-back, but I wouldn't be surprised.
Back-to-back, I like.
If it's one banner and they're a little smaller and they're put right next to each other. That's what I think it's going to be. But it's just weird because it's never happened before. But at the same time,
Yeah.
when would it have? What player changed his number and was with the same franchise and was as dominant as he was? I mean, it's not like LeBron.
very unique.
It's not like LeBron changed his number from 6 to 23 in the same franchise. He would get it if he was, but that's not what happened. You know what I mean?
And Michael only played a handful of games with 45.
That's
right?
very true. Yeah, and 12. That'd be great. They should retire 12.
12.
Hey, good for Kobe.
Raise
Good
it
for
up.
Kobe. All right, that was enough. All right, no more wheel. But I am going to talk something on the wheel. I want to make this. I don't know about you guys, but I'm very optimistic for how long this show will last. So I'm planning on having the show forever if our producers want to keep us around. So
Longer than fantasy basketball.
potentially. So our first annual segment is going to start right now. The NBA rank is something that gets released every year by Sports Illustrated
Yeah.
and ESPN. ESPN's is called #NBA rank, and then the Sports Illustrated is called the top 100 players. So I wanted to do a couple different things with the NBA rank. I have the NBA rank here. Don't look at my paper. And I want to do 2 high, 2 lows, above and below, and guess what number. So to start, I want to do, you pick a number from 1 to 100,
Okay.
and then we're going to talk about that player for a little bit. We're going to do 3 of those, and then we'll switch it. So you go first.
All right, well, you want to pick
1
the
to
one.
100.
There's one that everybody knows, so let's talk about it. It's number 64.
64, Carmelo Anthony is 64. We can look at that. So he was players ranked around him, Avery Bradley.
Lonzo
Eric-
Ball.
Eric
Lonzo
Gordon,
is one ahead of
Lonzo
him.
Ball, and then after him, Marcus Smart, Nicholas Batum, Patty Mills. I think it's completely erroneous. I mean, not erroneous. Atrocious.
To me, it reflects on ESPN.
Yes.
And if I was going to pick a second chump this week, it was going to be ESPN.
Yeah.
I mean, who takes those guys seriously? And how can you take that list seriously
It's not.
when they're doing things like that? It's just, who pays attention to it?
Again, it's not very fair to Melo.
I don't
He's
pay attention.
proven that even at
As much as I dislike him, it's
Right.
just
even with a piss poor attitude, and even in a situation where he may have some type of mindset that's ruining a team chemistry, even though he was voted a team favorite.
I like to see him get slapped every time he can. So I like it in that sense.
Funny,
but it's
but
just
if you look at it,
it's not around Christmas.
he should be a top. I think he's more around 38, 39, 40 is where he should be. He is low. He dropped very drastically in the last couple of years. When they did it 4 years ago,
What do you think he thinks he should be? Top 10 probably still.
Probably. Well, good.
Yeah,
That's
I'll
the
do.
mentality that he should have. So I think 4 years ago he was 8 or 9.
He's
and then
still
he-
a top
and then-
10 scorer.
Yeah, I agree.
He's still,
I mean, maybe 10, but I agree with that. And it's just I don't think it's really fair because I think if he was put in the right situation, he would contribute to winning basketball. And I think he does
Why
want to
can't they
win.
work that out? Why isn't anything happening with that with the Knicks? That's what I'm waiting for. I want to be a Knicks fan, and I really got to get rid of Carmelo.
I want to
before I
be
can
a
Knicks
fly
fan.
on the wall of ownership
Yeah.
office.
What's going on? I mean, we're getting a training camp now, and that guy.
They're drinking some good Suntory whiskey or something.
I don't know what
they're
the heck's
messing
going on.
up.
They're
Why
right
do
to
they
the
think
left.
that team's going to be better with him on it than not?
I mean, I think they're probably having a lot of disagreements between buyouts and how much money they're willing to pay him for a buyout.
All of that.
And if I'm Carmelo Anthony, I'm expanding my trade.
And he hasn't.
No, he hasn't. He only wants to go to Houston. I understand. And if I'm
There's other teams.
if I'm the Knicks, I try harder than anything to try to trade him to Houston. But if I'm Melo, I open it up. I go to teams that have nice areas. That are Miami,
Even
LA.
Cleveland.
Exactly. And then I open up to areas that have a chance of winning a championship. I think he just needs to open his eyes and think that, hey, this isn't good for my career, and it's not good for the Knicks. And I understand that I don't care about the Knicks and whether they succeed as a franchise because they've been absolute crap to me and treated me so poorly. But he needs to understand that if he knows a different situation, he can rehabilitate an
At
aspect of
33
his
years
career.
old,
He
his
could.
window's not big.
No,
and,
it's very small.
So
and
if he gets to
has a
Cleveland
chance.
this year,
He
it
has
could
a
be
chance.
important to him. You know,
The perspective
and
of his,
Miami would be nice
yeah,
too.
the perspective on
Well,
him
OKC.
in the public eye
Yeah.
would completely shift if he was able to go to a team, be the second creator, be the third best player.
That's a
If he
good
went to
point,
OKC,
because
if he
that's
was-
not going to happen in New York.
No,
he's
yeah,
going to
if he
continue
helped-
to get
okay,
ridden
suppose
down.
he helped OKC make it to the conference finals and take it even to 5
Yeah.
games against the Warriors. I would think so much more highly
Yeah,
of
he
Melo.
needs a change in venue as much as any player has ever needed a
And how
change
does
in
he not
venue,
know
and he's
that?
blocking
And
it.
how does he not know
And
that?
it just tells you a lot about him.
It does. I don't know. Next player, choose a number, 1 to 100. Don't let the list do.
Oh, I wasn't really. That's too small anyway. I can't
That's
see that.
true.
Well, you mentioned 23 before. You had LeBron ranked 23.
Number 23 on the NBA rank is Mike Conley. I'm glad. Okay, so this is a good one. So I think this is okay. He is perennially accepted by media and fans as an underrated player, but at the same time, the concept of being underrated completely makes him not underrated because everyone overrates him because he's underrated. It's
Underrated, overpaid.
It's the most unusual situation in terms of like the balance of what his actual stance is in terms of NBA player. I do think he's a top 35 player in the league. I don't think that he's better. Maybe he is coming this season than Marc Gasol, but for every single year, he hasn't been the best player on his team. He doesn't contribute the most to winning. He's a liability on defense. I really think it's overstated his shooting ability and his creating ability. I like him, but I don't think he should be 23. I think that's too high.
That always surprises me when you all of a sudden, either I'm not watching things or you're seeing things that I never see. I mean, liability on defense?
He's bad at defense.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, he gets scored.
But I
on a
hear
lot.
that so many guys from you guys that Kyrie, liability on defense.
Kyrie's
Michael
worse at
Conley,
defense.
liability on defense.
Conley's
He's got
better
too
defender
damn
than Kyrie.
athletics to be liabilities.
Okay, how about
He's
a
one of
poor
my favorite
defender?
point guards.
He's a poor defender. He's a poor defender, not a liability. He's a poor defender. There's a difference.
I'm not willing to buy that either, but he's one of my favorite point guards.
So do you think it's too high, too low?
I think he's one of the top 5 point guards in the league, and maybe even top 3.
Top 5? Top 3?
I just like him.
Steph, Westbrook, Chris Paul, Harden.
If I had again, we talked before
John Wall?
about who the Celtics' dream point guard would
Kyrie?
be. It's not. I don't even think Kyrie's the dream point guard. He's somebody they stumble into.
You think the Celtics win better with Michael Conley than Kyrie Irving?
I think he comes closer to a match with Stevens than almost any point guard in the league. I just think his
I like
head
his
on his
mentality.
shoulders
Exactly.
the right way.
I like that about him, and I think he has the right confidence as a player. He understands his role. He understands how to corral his teammates in the right way. He was a big part of the
I
chemistry.
like his game. I like watching his game.
I think it's going to be very interesting watching Conley and Gasol and how they can motivate that team to produce winning games without their identity there anymore.
They're in a tough
Tony
market.
Allen,
They're
and Zach
having a hard
Randolph,
time growing
their
their
grit
team.
and grind is gone. I'm very curious to how they motivate their younger teammates, whether they can get the other players that were kind of injury-ridden last year kind of be able to provide more. I'm nervous, and I think I wouldn't be surprised if next year, if both of these guys, they're out of the top 30 in terms of the top players in the league. What do you think about Mike
So
Conley?
what is Kyrie ranked?
Kyrie Irving is ranked 25 on this list.
Because all those.
So
point-
he's
he-
ranked ahead. He went worse than
Conley's ranked
Conley.
Conley's
I
ranked
think
two.
that's
I just showed
I think that's
it gets
outrageous.
back
I
to
think
what's
that's outrageous
ESPN
too.
talking about. And
No, I mean Kyrie. We can talk about Kyrie is way too low. Kyrie is the best one-on-one scorer potentially in the league. He's the best ball handler that I've ever seen. I understand that he has problems defensively. I understand that
There you go again.
advanced statistics.
I hate that when you say that because
It's true. What do you mean? I can't tell you he's a good defender. He's not a good
looks at
defender.
him and says, "Boy, I got a crappy defensive player coming my way." He doesn't look at him like that at all.
He looks at him and says, "I have a lot of work to do."
tremendously athletic. Somebody that's going to fit my defense.
Yes,
is
and
what
he
he's
says, I have
looking
a
at.
lot of work to do to make him provide on the defensive end. That's what he looks at him. He does not going to go up to him and be like, hey, you're a crap defender. He's going to go up to him and say, hey, you need to put in work. You need to work on your lateral quickness. You need to work on your hands in terms of being able to predict where the ball is going on offense. You need to work on paying attention when you're off ball to what play is being run. I think that...
Get passionate about defense
yeah,
too,
exactly,
like want to improve.
He doesn't have that heart on that end of the floor.
Well, a coach can translate that to a player.
I agree, no,
And, and Tyronn
will.
Lue and the stuff he had to put up with LeBron James to me just comes more and more to the surface. I mean, he has a game last year where he had no assists, and LeBron goes up to him and says, "That's the last time that happens, Kyrie. You're never to have another game while I'm playing with you with 0 assists."
I mean,
what kind of a way is that to approach a
I don't
player?
know. The game after that, he
He
had
had 30-something points.
The game after that, he had like 29 and 12 assists, so why not? They won. Like, who cares how they talk to him if he motivates him? He's out of there.
No, that's why he's out of there.
Kyrie cared.
Yeah, Kyrie, clearly. All right, last number, and then we'll switch to a little different aspect. 1 to 100.
6.
Number 6 is Anthony Davis.
Wow.
So he's behind Russell Westbrook and Steph Curry, who are 4 and 5, but he's ahead of Chris Paul and James Harden. So I like this spot. I think in my own ranking, I have him 7th. I'm gonna release a swoosh rank, like my own ranking of the top 100 players in the league, probably tonight. So I have Anthony Davis at 7. I think James Harden is a little bit better than him just in terms of how he contributes to his team being able to win. But that could be because of the scheme he was in. But Anthony Davis is dynamic. We're going to talk about the alien thing in a little bit, where we talk about what player you would want. He's on that team for me. In terms of his versatility on every single aspect, he's a plus.
Most desirable player in the league.
He's efficient. He's good on he's phenomenal on defense. He can score from inside, outside. He has post moves. It's just like he deserves a chance to be incredible.
Yep.
And I'm very curious to see if he comes to the trade market,
In February.
what type of deals are offered up. Because
Yeah,
that is
and
when
I'll be
that is
looking at
when-
it in hindsight, saying, man, I think I'd rather have him than Kyrie and have Isaiah healthy at the point with
Right.
Anthony Davis up front and Kyrie.
It could be
And
something
boy,
that happens.
You're just going to take
But, I
what's
mean,
there when you got it.
if
I'm
you-
not down on
but
age
if
at
you
all.
think about it, wouldn't we be able to compete for the best package available for Anthony Davis? It pains me to say, but we would have to part with probably Jalen and or Jason Tatum. We'd probably have to hand in the Grizzlies pick that we have.
We
the Clippers
could get
pick that
rid
we
of
have,
Horford.
the old pick we have. Yeah, I don't know if they really want him.
No, but they're gonna need somebody.
I think if New Orleans was trading him, it would be because there was big rift. Gentry can't make it work. They fired Gentry. Gentry can't make the chemistry happen between DeMarcus Cousins and him. They want to reload in terms of freeing up some money, kind of getting into a rebuild scheme, bring in some draft picks so that they can have DeMarcus Cousins carry them to a fringe playoff team, which they won't compete for the playoffs.
What's his status end of the year, Anthony Davis?
Anthony Davis? What do you mean?
Is he
status?
free?
Is he free?
Well, is he a free agent?
At the end of this year? No, he has
No,
2
he's
years.
not.
He has 2 years left.
Okay.
What do you think about Anthony Davis? Number 6.
If you had to give up Tatum and Jalen and a pick, heartbeat for the
Yes.
Celtics. And I think for
I agree.
number 6, absolutely.
I think that
I mean, I don't know exactly how they put together these lists. Is it who you'd build around, or is it if you had a draft, who would you pick?
So it's
best available.
the next year. This next year, which player is the best player? And the way I look at it, and what criteria I'm going to use for my draft or my rank is if there was 30 franchises and I was in charge of every single franchise, and I'm doing a draft between every single player available in the player pool, and I'm trying to win that season, and if I'm not trying to win that season, if I'm trying to win that season, and if I know that I can't win that season, I'm trying to win as soon as possible. That's my theory. So I think in that sense, younger players matter, but it's less important about what in terms of like what they're going to be in potential, and more about what they are right now.
Well, I give him credit for putting LeBron 1.
I think it's very obvious. You can't.
Well,
You
So
can't.
it is.
Davis is probably the highest ranked non-champion, right?
Yeah.
Well, Westbrook's not champion. Well, he's
Westbrook-
ranked higher than
Is Westbrook
Westbrook's
Westbrook
5.
was ahead of him?
Westbrook's
All right,
5, MVP.
yeah.
All right, so we're
I
going
mean,
to
I like that list.
switch to a different aspect. I'm going to say this is going to be guess what number. And I'm just going to tell you a player, and you have to
Okay.
guess what number. Yusuf Nurkic.
47.
Oh man, 35.
Split the difference. Mike is a little closer, 44. So I like Nurkic, but I'm nervous that once he plays a full healthy season, he's going to disappoint people. When he was on the court with McCollum and Lillard, they were really dynamic. He showed abilities that he had as a passer and as a scoring big out of the post. He's a big body. I like him a lot, but I'm nervous that the success that they had towards the end of the year last year was all based off of motivation to make the playoffs. It was a push, and there was a great sense of unity in that team. I think that if they can reinstill that same vigor this year, where they're going to be a playoff team and they got to be working for it all year, and he can stay healthy, then maybe he lives up to that spot. But I think he should be a little bit lower. So I think it's a little bit high. I agree with you. I think I would put him around 48, 49, 50. Closer to what you said. What do you think about Nurkic?
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a big year for him, and, but I love his motor. I think he, I just love how he hustles. I love how he protects the rim. All those kind of things that contribute to a team that isn't that strong, maybe defensively. I'm sure you'll probably say the same thing about McCollum and Lillard you say about Kyrie and Conley. Weak defenders.
He's got a high
Are there any good defenders in the NBA at the guard position?
So this is
Avery Bradley?
So this is actually perfect. So let's do one more of these, and then we'll lead into the mailbag.
Yeah, do the mailbag. I like the mailbag.
We'll do one more. So what number do you think that Joel Embiid is on this list? Joel Embiid. Kill the line.
I'll go with 17.
Oh, I like Joel Embiid.
Wow. 17. 30. I'll say 30.
So he's 32. So I do think that they factored a lot of the fact that they don't think he's going to play a full season.
Yeah.
I think in terms of a healthy player, I do think he's around 17. I think he's shown his ability to contribute.
It was a great stretch of 32 games.
Oh my God, he's
wonderful stretch.
His per 36 and his ability to motivate his team defensively to be a top defense in the league. He's shown that when he's healthy, he's a difference maker, and he's a big difference maker.
Is he ready to go, or is he still
he's
sitting
ready
on the
to
bench?
go? He's ready to go. Both him, Ben Simmons, Markelle Fultz, all recovered from their injury. Apparently, they're all ready to go. They should all be playing within their first preseason game. I'm very excited to see him this year. I really hope that he plays more than 65 games. Because I think
He's got to go to TB12. He needs to work on his pliability.
I agree.
Avocado ice cream.
Yeah.
If he plays over 65 games and Ben Simmons can play over 65 games, I think the Sixers have a chance to be a playoff team. And I want to see these guys in the playoffs because I think he's so fun to watch. And he's such an enjoyable
really
player,
is.
and he's really good. He's good. Like the skills that he has, not many players have. His ability,
He's the real deal.
He stretches the
Really
floor
is.
as a 7'2" big. He can shoot from outside. He can handle.
Yep.
And I think my favorite move of his is his rip through, because his rip through is so strong and so forceful, but it's so low. And he puts it low, and his arms are so lanky and so long that when he turns and faces and he drops the ball and rips through, he could light a match. If the ball is on fire, he could light the match on the
I love his court vision. I love how his head's always up, and he sees a lot, and he picks the right play. Well, there's some really good players in that league, Jaylen Brown being one of them, that to me just doesn't seem to read the play and pick the right hole to make his move. Embiid seems to pick the right spot and get it done quickly.
Okay, thoughts on Embiid before we move to the mailbag?
I like Embiid.
I like Embiid too. All right, first question. This plays in perfectly with what you were just talking about, Mike. My friend Biddies would like to know, some people downplay the importance of guard defense. How does Uncle Mike feel about this?
Well, I got a chance to talk to about my brother Dan, who I think was a great AAU coach. And
Sitting in Dan's chair. This is Dan's chair.
That's Dan's chair. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, when he was coaching, I was coaching a college woman, and I had a pretty good, but I always deferred to Dan. The guy had an innate sense. So we got into a discussion once of what the most important position on the court is. And I, to that point, was always, I had a 6'4" center that just dominated the game, was an All-American. And I was, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Walton, it was always the big, but Dan said no. Dan said it's the point guard. And he was able to, I started watching Derek Abney play, who was his point guard on that team. And Derek Abney single-handedly at the point guard position allowed that team to play at a national level with virtually nothing else on the court. Your brother Dylan was one of the starters, and they didn't have anybody more than 6'4", 6'5", yet they were playing against Jared Jack out in Detroit, and Derek Abney was controlling the game. Why? Because if you have the ball and nobody can take that ball from you, you have the single best and commodity in the game. And I started to feel that way. I don't know what that's changed over the last 15 years. So conversely, I would say if that's the most important thing and the most valuable thing, to have somebody that no matter what, when he's got the ball, the other team can't take it off, and no matter how good they are, the defender becomes that important, and a defender that can actually play with them. And it goes into another one of your mailbag ones, a kind of a crossover. I can't wait for the aliens. I hope we get to talk to them. But Matt turned me on to the Baltimore boys. If you guys haven't watched that yet, it was awesome. And to see Tyrone Muggsy Bogues at 5'2" play defense, turn that freaking guy loose on anybody. And if you can play defense at that level, I think that tells you how important that the guard defense can be. I don't know whether it is or it isn't. I don't like the NBA. I'm sorry to keep going on. I don't like how the NBA changed its rules to eliminate a lot of the touching and kind of eliminate a little bit of the Marcus Smart, a little bit of the Avery Bradley.
Gary Payton.
Right, so that's something that there has been a shift. So now it's an offense-first league. The rules are indicative of that.
Okay.
They're allowing more shooting to be a more important skill. So really, Steph Curry was really the linchpin of this and really headed this change.
Because he moved his range out so far?
Yes, and because he was so strong from out there. But before Steph, we still had those defense. I mean, Chris Paul is one of these. He's still the best two-way point guard in the league. And we had Baron Davis, and we have other defensive, very strong, really rigid defenders out there.
You're right.
And that's what matters.
So all of a sudden, Steph comes up, and he's not only shooting for 30, he's shooting quick releases for 30.
And now they're like, well, holy crap, we have James Harden as a shooting guard. Why don't we just make him a point guard, and he can just shoot crazy? He can do that. He's not a defender. Who cares? So now we have, Lillard can play. Isaiah Thomas. Now we have Kyrie Irving. And everyone's made off that same mold of offensive first. Obviously, it's different beasts in terms of who's a shoot first, who's better at driving. But in terms of being a defensive first point guard, that's a breed that's dying. And players try to pump themselves, and John Wall will say, I'm the best two-way point guard in the league. But his defensive skills have tailed in the past couple of years, and he clearly cares a lot about assists and scoring the basketball.
If you watch Muggsy Bogues play, it was his position and how close he was able to play the player. He was virtually, you talk about being in your shorts, he was there.
Right.
He was like a little fire hydrant that was right in front. So many of these point guards today, whether it was John Wall or Rajon Rondo, they're playing matador defense and they're calling the steal defense instead of positional defense where they're in front and they're locking the guy down. I would love to see in his prime Muggsy Bogues play James Harden, and James Harden try to get that ball up over half court with that type of a defender.
Well, another thing is point guards that are strong offensively but stronger defensively really fly under the radar. Eric Bledsoe is one of the best point guards in the league because of his defensive abilities and defensive versatility, but he doesn't get the appreciation he deserves because of injuries, because he's on a bad team. Kyle Lowry's on a strong team, but I feel like he doesn't get the respect that he deserves because he is a very, very good defender, probably the third best two-way point guard in the league. And this breed is so important because we've talked about this before, and the Celtics have been so good at this. We'll see how it changes now without Avery Bradley, but we've been one of the best teams in the league at defending the three-pointer, which has proven to be the most important shot in the league. So obviously, being a defensive point guard matters, and that should be really, really important, but for some reason, we're not seeing it translate into the skills of the players that we have. So I think it's going to be a shift that we're going to see maybe 4 or 5 years from now. The prospects that are going to come out, we're going to be saying, okay, he's a guard, but he's a defensive first guard, because that's how time kind of shifts with, okay, right now we have a trend where it's all offensive first. And to accommodate for that, young players are going to need to develop
And I wonder
skills.
if AAU basketball contributes to that, where there's not a whole lot of emphasis put on picking the best defensive guard on your team. It's
What do you think about defender as guards?
I think it's just become so high octane, so high energy. Every game is just run and gun, and I don't think, with the best defensive teams still allowing 97 points a game sometimes.
Right, exactly. 97 points a game is not a bad defensive rating.
I don't think they want to forfeit. They don't have room on starting fives for Bruce Bowens anymore.
No,
stuff like
that's
that.
true.
So they don't want to forfeit the 20 points a game or the 15 points a game from the starting.
Yeah,
five
Marcus
members.
Smart seems to be finding.
Marcus Smart should be on that list.
Yeah, Avery Bradley too.
Marcus Smart, for his ability to be a floor general
and
disrupt on defense, I think he should be on that top 100 list, but he probably isn't.
Marcus Smart is on that list. He's number 65.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I think that's where he should.
Oh, that's right behind
Melo, literally a spot below Melo.
Lonzo and Melo.
So my good friend Mike McGrath, shout out Mike McGrath, lives in Chicago. His mailbag question is, if your boss was threatening to chain you up at the intergalactic theme park you work at for eternity, unless you copped some NBA talent, which 5 to 8 players are you targeting for their skills?
Oh, you know what I thought that meant?
What?
Which 5'8" and under players?
Wow, I like this. This is great. Okay, so I'm going to answer first. So,
that's what it
Is this
said.
some Space Jam stuff?
yes, this is Space Jam. Okay.
Yeah, well, we've had alien sightings on the show before, and that's the way I got my shirt on today. I was psyched to wear it.
So my way to handle the question was, to go up against a team of aliens, you need to select the players that are most like aliens. So my starting 5 is LeBron James at the point guard, Durant at the shooting guard, Giannis at the small forward, Kawhi at the power forward, Anthony Davis